Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Here we go. Hey, there we go. Guys, we got Dylan helping out on the control room. So if anything goes wrong, tonight we blame it on Dylan. But we appreciate the fact that he's here. Candy and Dave are away. And guys, I tell you, we just made it with tonight's show. I mean, I really got down here in the nick of time, and we're just happy to be here. But the name of tonight's show is going to be Meltdown. So, Kurt, if you could put up our lower third there. And today's date is 8/26, beautiful. And, you know, a lot of people are going to look at that and think about Meltdown, and they're going to automatically think about Trump, you know? But, guys, this is more than about Trump. This is about Trump and the Arctic. But we're going to start the show off with some fun with Bill Maher, because Bill Maher put Trump on a pedestal on Friday night while at the same time giving him the old bada bing. So he was complimenting him while he condemned him, as only Bill Maher can do. And guys, we're going to have a lot of fun with that on tonight's show. So Kurt, let's start the antics with clip number 02, please.
I bet if you do this, the people will put your face on the $100 bill, combining your two great loves, money and you. And then I think they will put you on Mount Rushmore. That'd be a switch, huh? Someone chiseling you.
So somebody chiseling Trump. But now we're going to continue on with the merriment. And this is one of Kurt's favorite topics. And guys, I have to be honest. I heard Kurt mention this before anybody else. And this is about Trump and his money laundering. And I got to hand it to Kurt. Like I said, before anybody was even breathing about this idea, Kurt said, Rich, I'm telling you, they're going to come up with something where Trump has been bought out by the Russian oligarchs. And guys, we're going to play the short clip now, just to give you a taste. Because remember, on this show, we start with the teaser clips, and then we go to the full clip. So Kurt, let's tease everybody with Trump's, how he launders his money. Clip number 5, please.
Trump's Russian laundromat reads the headline in the New Republic, quote, whether Trump knew it or not, Russian mobsters and corrupt oligarchs use Trump's properties not only to launder vast sums of money from extortion, drugs, gambling, and racketeering, but even as a base of operations for their criminal activities. Without the Russian mafia, it is fair to say Donald Trump would not be president of the United States.
Without Russia, Donald Trump would not be president of the United States. And guys, we're going to show you that later when you see it. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Speaking of the tip of the iceberg, we're going to show you an empty chair. Because, you know, Trump's at the G7 meeting. And what did he do? He missed the meeting on climate change. And guys, the worst part is they lied about it. But that's why we do the show. We do the show, and it's called Who's Telling the Truth, so that when Trump lies, we can point it out and prove it to you. So, Kurt, let me prove my point. Clip 6.
Daniel, it was no secret that the president wasn't eager to discuss climate change at the G7, but it's quite another thing to snub this meeting as a whole. So what happened here?
Well, we don't know exactly what happened. Perhaps he had some urgent classified priority that they can't tell us about. Perhaps he had to go to the bathroom. What we do know, though, is that this event was on his schedule.
Look at that
the White
empty
House then
seat,
told us
guys.
He didn't come because he had meetings with Modi and Merkel.
Right.
And then we saw this photo of Modi and Merkel. So I think the simplest explanation is simply that the White House lied again to cover for him.
And that he had no interest in discussing that.
So Trump lied to us again. Why? Does he think that we're not going to see this stuff? Does he think he's going to get away with it? You know? And guys, what's even worse is we're going to show you a little tidbit now about the Arctic melting down. And guys, I'm telling you, you know, Trump says a lot of funny stuff, but this next clip we're going to show you is a shocker. So Kurt, 7, please.
All the climate models have really predicted what we are seeing now, these increased storms, increased droughts, increased heat waves. We are seeing this over the past year and a half, so many of these different signals. Do you think that we're getting to the point where this is building a genuine consensus that action is required?
Yeah, I think there's nothing like reality to convince people.
There's nothing like reality to convince people, right? And that's why we always try to show a temperature chart. Hey, Kurt, let's see how nimble you can be. Can you bring up number 38 just to verify what I'm saying? 38 is a still. Are you able to do that? All right, maybe not. There you go. All right, but guys, take a good look. Can you lose the bottom third, Kurt? Take a good look at that chart. And guys, what I always say about this chart, what's the most important thing on the chart? And the most important thing is the site. And it's a site from NASA. And guys, if you look at the end of look at how the last few years are just going, oh man, sky high. All right, but anyway, so now we're going to, when the temperature gets that warm, we're going to go to our next clip, which is going to show you what it does to Greenland and to the glaciers and to an interesting fact that's called calving. So guys, if there's one thing you come away from on this show, I want you to understand what the term calving is, and we'll show you what it's like, and then once again, we'll play the longer clips later. So Kurt, number 8, please.
Greenland's ice sheet is the biggest in the northern hemisphere, and it's in meltdown. When large chunks fall off vast glaciers, they call it calving. The placid water surrounding it is dramatically disrupted, causing large waves. All of this is a warning sign for the world.
All of this is a warning sign to the world. And guess who's not being warned? Aren't an efficient way of generating electricity. And who could that possibly be? And where could he possibly have said it? At the G7 summit in France. So Kurt, let's see how foolish Trump can be. Number 9, please.
And I'm not going to lose that wealth. I'm not going to lose it on dreams, on windmills, which frankly aren't working too well. I'm not going to lose it. So
the windmills aren't working too well. Well, we've spoken about this before, but guys, what we're going to do tonight is we're actually going to show you the first offshore wind farm in the United States. And it services Block Island, where 5 turbines generate enough electricity to power 17,000 homes. So Kurt, rather than me say it, let's play it. Number 10.
So it's a perfect marriage. A marriage of demand for energy on the coastline and a huge power source just off the coast.
Our work in Eco-Imagination is just beginning. We're continually investing in clean technology solutions, and we want to lead the way to a clean energy future.
This cool ocean wind sure feels nice, but who would have guessed what an impact this could have on our planet Earth? You could say the wind's the limit, at least when it comes to clean energy.
Guys, did you catch what the lady from GE said? It's an investment. GE is investing in the future. What does Trump want to do? He wants to burn fossil fuels. So maybe we should divest from all the fossil fuel companies. All right, and guys, now we really start to have the fun. Now we go back to the full clips. So we're going to start with Bill Maher, and we've cut this up, so I'll be interjecting in it. So Kurt, let's start the party with clip number 22, please.
And finally, new rule, if Donald Trump is looking for a legacy, don't buy Greenland, save Greenland.
There you go. There's your mission, Donald.
That should be your legacy, Mr. President.
Your
and I'll tell you
legacy.
something else. If you get religion on global warming and become the greatest echo warrior we've ever had in politics, I'll vote for you.
Get out of here.
I tweeted that last week.
Get out of here.
I guess some people thought I was kidding. I'm not. I don't know if you are following the news about the environment, but it is definitely at the last chance, whatever it takes moment. And I know the president is hearing me because last week he tweeted this. Saying he saw the show by accident.
Of course it was by accident.
He said the same thing a couple of years ago. How do you watch an HBO show for an hour by accident? When it was over, did you say, hey, that wasn't Ballers? Boy, that Bill Maher looks just like The Rock. But look, I'm glad we're talking, sir. At one of your recent rallies, you called me a serious person, and I appreciate that. You also called me third rate and a so-called comedian, and then a respected comedian. I guess I'm complicated. You also said I was wacky, which isn't really that big an insult for a comedian. Side-splitting comedian Bill Maher. But look, I'm not here to fight. I'm here to offer my vote.
Guys, he's here to offer his vote. More or less the same thing I said when he said he would bring down the price of prescription drugs. And remember, we did a few shows on that, and it failed to materialize. So once again, how can you believe anything Trump says to you? But Maher has found the secret. Flattery will get you everywhere. So Kurt, let's see what flattery can do for you.
But look, I'm not here to fight. I'm here to offer my vote. And so, Mr. President, Your Excellency, least racist person in the world, let me address you directly and try to win you over with logic, because I know flattery simply will not work. You're impervious to it. Bounces off you like bullets from Superman's chest, so I'm not even going to try that. Not on a man as great as you.
There you go. There you go.
I'm not that wacky. I'd look foolish trying, and you would see through it right away because you're a stable genius. And did I mention handsome? When I see you and Melania together, I always think, which one was the model? But sir, picture this headline. Trump saves Earth. Feels right, doesn't it?
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Kenny Johnson, you can take that little clip, and I'm telling you, That's all the Republicans are going to say. Trump saves Earth. Why? Because they only hear what they want to hear. And you know, the next clip, we're going to show you what a whiny little bitch Trump can be. But I tell you, Maher has a lot of fun with it. So Kurt, number 24, please.
Trump saves Earth. Feels right, doesn't it? And all it would take is for you to undergo a sudden, profound change, like the Grinch when he saved Christmas. How befitting a man of such power, of such great intellect, and large, completely un-mushroom-like penis.
Oh, boy.
Someone who has the most beautiful words and a slavish devotion to the truth. I bet if you do this, the people will put your face on the $100 bill, combining your two great loves, money and you.
He's good, isn't he?
And then I think they will put you on Mount Rushmore. That'd be a switch, huh? Someone chiseling you.
I'll see.
Wait, no. I was kidding. I'm sorry. Please, Mr. President, before you change the channel and go back to your chess game. Look, I know we've tangled in the past. You sued me once, and we both have said some things. You called me stupid, not considered smart, a dummy, not a smart guy, the dumbest man on television, fired like a dog, very sad, pathetic, bloated and gone. Dumbass, a rather dumb guy, a low-life dummy, dopey.
You wrote all those tweets? Holy mackerel.
Dumb as a rock, moron, stupid guy, a very dumb guy, failing comedian. And most hurtful of all, Rosie is smart. And I called you a whiny little bitch.
I'm telling you, he takes no prisoners, right, guys? And in part 4, the last part of this clip, we're just going to have more bitch slapping. So, Kurt, hit it.
And I called you a whiny little bitch. But I'm just going to admit it right now. I was jealous. Always have been. I mean, who's kidding who? We both know you have the best brain, and everything you take on is an incredible success. You won the trade war, you built the wall, you effortlessly solved the Middle East, and Stormy Daniels is still basking in the afterglow of your incredible lovemaking. Women want to be with you, and men want to be like you. I know I do. In fact, as a tribute to you, I've taken to wearing, I'll show you, toilet paper on my shoe. And I'm sure many would follow. If you embrace the environment, think about the A-listers who overnight would become your biggest fans. Brad, Matt, Clooney. The White House would be like Ocean's 11. Taylor Swift will be begging to follow you on Twitter. DiCaprio will love you. Giselle will love you. Ivanka will get invited to parties again. You'll be a big hero in her eyes, and we know you love her in a completely appropriate way. Look, sir, you're already the greatest president ever. That's a fact because people are saying it. So I can see why you might be thinking, why do I need to gild the lily? I've already saved mankind from extinction once after Obama. Do I have to do it twice? Yes, sir. I'm afraid you do. Please, sir, lend your giant brain to work with the other lesser brains in the scientific community. And if you save the planet, billions of children will be grateful, and one of them could be your next wife.
Oh, boy.
So please, remember my pledge. Become a pit bull for planet Earth, and you won't need Russia to hack my polling place. I will vote for you. I will take my paper ballot and put my prick next to your...
I guess he meant to say next to your picture, but anyway, don't you love the guy? And he says, you know, where he said, you're the greatest president that ever lived because some people are saying it. And that's all you need to be considered a fact. Right, Kenny? Kenny Johnson and Uncle Joey. A fact is anything that you hear. If you heard somebody say it, it's a fact. And it's a fact that women want to be with Trump and men want to be like Trump. So, guys, we're so lucky. We are so fortunate that we have the perfect president, you know? But now we're going to show you what might make you think he ain't so perfect, because now we're going to play the clips on the money laundering. And I want to tell you, this is going to open your eyes, and hopefully, everybody will start to say, wait a minute. Oh, now I'm starting to get the idea of why Trump doesn't want to show his taxes. A lot of funny business going on there, huh? So, guys, let's start. And this is Brian Williams on the 11th hour. So, Kurt, number 26, please.
Welcome back to our broadcast. President Trump has repeatedly downplayed his business ties to Russia, but a fascinating new piece of journalism tracks 3 decades of Russian money connected to Trump properties. Trump's Russian laundromat reads the headline in the New Republic, quote, whether Trump knew it or not, Russian mobsters and corrupt oligarchs use Trump's properties not only to launder vast sums of money from extortion, drugs, gambling, and racketeering, but even as a base of operations for their criminal activities. Without the Russian mafia, it is fair to say Donald Trump would not be president of the United States. That is a weighty charge. And with us tonight, the author of this piece, Craig Unger, a contributor at the New Republic. Before I even let you say a word, I've got another paragraph I want to read to you that you wrote. Over the past 3 decades, at least 13 people with known or alleged links to Russian mobsters or oligarchs have owned, lived in, and even run criminal activities out of Trump Tower and other Trump properties. Many used his apartments and casinos to launder untold millions in dirty money. Some ran a worldwide high-stakes gambling ring out of Trump Tower and a unit directly below one owned by Trump.
How do you like that, huh?
So, weighty charges indeed. When I ask you, when I meet you on the street, the basic question, what is it about Trump and the Russians? Which may be even harder to answer. How do you answer?
Well, there's been a lot of great reporting about Trump and the Russians lately, but if you want to know when he was first compromised by the Russians, I go back 33 years to 1984, and at that time, a guy named David Bogadin walked into Trump Tower. He was a Russian immigrant, and he had ties to the most powerful crime ring in Russia. And he sat down with Donald Trump, and he bought not one apartment, not 2, but 5 condos in Trump Towers. And the state attorney general later ruled that that was laundering money. And Trump Towers, in many ways, had been set up as a perfect vehicle for money laundering. It was at the time, it was one of only 2 buildings in New York City where anonymous people could use shell companies to buy condominiums.
Guys, you believe that? So there was only 2 places in New York City where you could buy condos as a shell corporation, and Trump owned one of them. You starting to see what's going on here? You getting the idea? Oh, wait, we have more fun. Kurt, play the next clip.
And the state attorney general later ruled that that was laundering money. And Trump Towers, in many ways, had been set up as a perfect vehicle for money laundering. It was at the time, it was one of only 2 buildings in New York City where anonymous people could use shell companies to buy condominiums.
Is there a quid versus a pro quo? I mean, with Trump having been accused of being so transactional, is there a long debt, this reason to bend over backwards to show Russia and Putin the benefit of the doubt? What's the active extortion, compromise threat that you allege that you found?
Well, I think in the early days it was probably simply a matter of money laundering. The Russian mafia got their money laundered, and Trump sold a lot of condos and presumably didn't ask questions. But things changed dramatically around 2002, and at the time Trump was still reeling from his massive expansion in Atlantic City. He had ended up with owing $4 billion to 70 banks. I mean, those are not the kind of things you want on your resume if you're going to be running for president of the United States. And in 2002, a company called Bayrock moved into Trump Tower. It's a real estate company, and it too allegedly had ties to the Russian mafia. And they made Donald Trump an offer he could not refuse. They were going to put up about $1 billion in financing. Trump put up 0, and yet he got 18% of the profits on their joint ventures.
Was he aware of all of this all the way along? And we recommend to our viewers, it's a long piece, but set aside some time and read it. Was he an unwitting participant?
So guys, it was a perfect marriage there, huh? The Russians got to launder their money, and Trump sold his overpriced condos to them. One hand washes the other, right? And now you're starting to see how it's done. But guys, when the tax returns come out, all will be revealed. And I tell you, with the next clip we're going to play is just to show you how shallow and what a liar Trump is, and how he goes over to the G7 meeting and he's he thinks climate change is a hoax. And then what does he do? He proves it by not showing up. He didn't have the Giulianis to show up with everybody else to discuss global warming and climate change. Why? Because he's professed it's a hoax. And everybody else agrees we have to do something about it. But he's such a slimy wimp. And I'll tell you, this is what really gets me going. So Kurt, let's prove my point with clip number 28, please.
One of the final events at the G7 summit in France was a meeting on global climate change. But President Trump was a no-show. Aides claimed that the president was busy in meetings that went long with the leaders of Germany and India. So staffers went to that climate meeting instead. But here, what that video you're looking at there shows is German Chancellor Merkel and the Indian Prime Minister Modi sitting side by side at that meeting on climate change. Our Daniel Dale, fact-checker extraordinary, joins me now. Daniel, it was no secret that the president wasn't eager to discuss climate change at the G7, but it's quite another thing to snub this meeting as a whole. So what happened here?
Well, we don't know exactly what happened. Perhaps he had some urgent classified priority that they can't tell us about. Perhaps he had to go to the bathroom. What we do know, though, is that this event was on his schedule. The White House then told us he didn't come because he had meetings with Modi and Merkel.
Right.
And then we saw this photo of Modi and Merkel. So I think the simplest explanation is simply that the White House lied again to cover for him.
And that he had no interest in discussing that. The president, Daniel, as you know, later said that he is an environmentalist. Let's listen to that.
In a nutshell, I want the cleanest water on earth. I want the cleanest air on earth. And that's what we're doing. And I'm an environmentalist. A lot of people don't understand that. I have done more environmental impact statements probably than anybody that's, I guess I can say definitely, because I've done many, many, many of them. More than anybody that's ever been president or vice president or anything even close to president. And I think I know more about the environment than most people.
He then talked about drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, and he went after windmills as an alternative source of energy. The president as a hero of the environment? Is there any evidence to support that?
Alex, there is no basis for that whatsoever. The New York Times did a really good piece a couple months ago where they listed 83 separate environmental regulatory rollbacks undertaken by the Trump administration. That's everything from mining debris in streams to the pollutants emitted into the air. And so, no, there's no basis for this. And when he says that he's an environmentalist because he's done environmental impact statements, those impact statements are the things that developers have to do when they're proposing a development project. It doesn't make you an environmentalist to do an environmental impact statement.
So guys, we learned something else. An environmental impact statement doesn't mean you're an environmentalist. It means that you're complying with the environmental standards that the building codes has. So Trump, he tries to give you the double reverse on all of this. And he's standing, at the G7 meeting, and I was able to put this up. So we're going to test Kurt's ability to jump forward. So first we're going to show you a question that was asked of Trump at the G7 rally. So Kurt, number 39, please.
Mr. President, there was a significant talk at the summit about climate change. I know in the past you've harbored some skepticism of the science and climate change. What do you think the world should be doing about climate change, and do you still harbor that skepticism?
So he's asking him, are you still skeptical about climate change? And what I've done is, I'm going to play each clip, and then Kurt, I want you to go back to the question again. So we'll go 30, we'll go 40, 39, 41, 39. Get the idea? All right, so let's go 40 now.
Josh, go ahead. Josh.
Mr. President, there was a significant talk at the summit about climate change. I know in the past you've harbored some skepticism of the science and climate change. What do you think the world should be doing about climate change, and do you still harbor that skepticism?
I feel that the United States has tremendous wealth. The wealth is under its feet. I've made that wealth come alive. We will soon be exporting. In fact, we're actually doing it now, exporting. But we are now the #1 energy producer in the world, and soon it will be by far, with a couple of pipelines that have not been able to get approved for many, many years. It'll have a huge impact.
All right, so you notice Trump said we have tremendous wealth. But what's the one thing he didn't do? He didn't answer the question. Kurt, 39 again.
Josh, go ahead. Josh.
Mr. President, there was a significant talk at the summit about climate change. I know in the past you've harbored some skepticism of the science and climate change. What do you think the world should be doing about climate change, and do you still harbor that skepticism?
I feel that the United States has tremendous wealth. The wealth is under its feet. I've made that wealth come alive. We will soon be exporting. In fact, we're actually doing it now, exporting. But we are now the #1 energy producer in the world, and soon it will be by far, with a couple of pipelines that have not been able to get approved for many, many years. It'll have a huge impact.
All right, we kind of got off on that one, but that's okay, because it did need to be rehearsed a little bit. But now we're going to play clip number, this should be 41, right, Kurt? Or was that 41? If that was 41, then play 42.
And I'm not going to lose that wealth. I'm not going to lose it on dreams, on windmills, which, frankly, aren't working too well. I'm not going to lose it. So, Josh, in a nutshell, I want the cleanest water on earth. I want the cleanest air on earth. And that's what we're doing. And I'm an environmentalist. A lot of people don't understand that. I have done more environmental impact statements probably than anybody that's, I guess I can say definitely, because I've done many, many, many of them. More than anybody that's ever been president or vice president or anything even close to president. And I think I know more about the environment than most people. I want clean air. I want clean water. I want a wealthy country. I want a spectacular country with jobs, with pensions, with so many things, and that's what we're getting. So I want to be very careful. At the same time,
Watch how he bolts.
You weren't called. At the same time, very important to me, we have to maintain this incredible place that we've all built. We've become a much richer country, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing, because that great wealth allows us to take care of people. We can take care of people that we couldn't have taken care of in the past because of the great wealth. We can't let that wealth be taken away. Clean air, clean water. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it.
Watch this.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Adios. Arrivederci. And guys, what I wanted to do there was I wanted to play the question being asked over again, you know, for reinforcement, because he never answered the question. And he's not here to protect the planet. He's here to burn fossil fuels, to make as much money, create as much wealth as he can for the corporations and the 1%, the people he gave all the tax breaks to. So you see, I mean, it's just a shame. And this guy is on the world stage, and he embarrasses not only me and you, he embarrasses the whole world, the whole country, the whole universe, because he doesn't understand facts. He doesn't understand science. And now we're going to get to the Arctic melting down. And, you know, hopefully Trump will melt down, and then this way we can use Article 25 of the Constitution to put him in a loony bin. But now we're going to show you what's actually melting down in the Arctic. So Kurt, number 29, please. Well, that's right, I forgot to tell you. Number 29.
Now melting away before our eyes. As the scorching heat wave that stifled Europe last week moves north, William Brangham reports on how it is setting records in new and alarming ways.
That's right, Judy. The same weather pattern that set records in Europe is now over Greenland, where temperatures are running as much as 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit above average. Greenland is home to one of the biggest ice sheets on Earth, second only in size to Antarctica. And researchers say some 60% of it is now showing signs of surface melting of at least 1 millimeter. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that means 10 billion tons of ice is being melted in a single day, sending a torrent of meltwater into the oceans. To help us understand what's going on here, I'm joined by Ted Scambos. He's the senior research scientist at the Cooperative Institute for Research in Environmental Sciences at the University of Colorado Boulder. Ted Scambos, thank you very much for being here. Can you just give us a sense of how significant this melting is in Greenland right now?
Well, we haven't seen melting like this in 150 years, except for the year 2012. And it looks like 2019 is actually going to break that record in terms of the amount of melting that's coming off of Greenland. We're seeing a lot of runoff from the sides of the ice sheet, and that, of course, adds to this river flow that goes into the ocean eventually. It's really quite dramatic, and the biggest that we've seen, as I said, in about 7 years. But prior to that, it's been over 150 years since the very top of Greenland has melted.
This is really sea level rise happening right before our eyes. I mean, we know that there are two ways that the ocean warms up. With a warmer climate, warms ocean water, that expands and it rises. But the other is what we're seeing here in Greenland, right?
Absolutely. And this is going to add several billion tons to the ocean. Meltwater from Greenland is going to contribute probably close to 1 millimeter of sea level rise in just this summer alone. 20 years ago, I would have said it's probably not contributing anything to the ocean. So you can see that we've really changed things up there. And of course, what happens 20 years from now, 50 years from now, is a big question mark.
So if someone is out there hearing you say this and they think, well, 1 millimeter to the ocean, how much is that really? Like, can you help us understand that in the scale of the things that we worry about for sea level rise globally?
Now, guys, it almost seems silly, doesn't it? 1 millimeter, and you say to yourself, well, 1 millimeter it's tiny. Guys, I remember when I was younger, there used to be the cigarettes. They started making them longer. And they were making 100-millimeter cigarettes. All the cigarettes were 100 millimeters. And then somebody came out with a cigarette that was 101 millimeters. And they sold their cigarettes on the idea that theirs was a silly millimeter longer than the other ones. And that was enough to sell the cigarettes. But guys, when it comes to ocean levels, a silly little millimeter ain't silly. And, now we're going to show you what can happen when we add a millimeter on. So, Kurt, number 30, please.
Well, a millimeter to the ocean, how much is that really? Can you help us understand that in the scale of the things that we worry about for sea level rise globally?
So a millimeter per year just from Greenland. And then you mentioned that the oceans are getting warmer, so they're expanding. Antarctica is also in the mix of this, contributing another fraction of a millimeter. All of these things are faster now than they were just a few decades ago. And the concern is that the rate is going to keep going up and at a faster and faster rate. That'll actually accelerate. A millimeter may not sound like much. Small amounts of sea level rise have a big impact on very low-lying areas, very flat areas. If you talk to Miami, New Orleans, Houston, they're concerned about an inch or two over the coming decades of sea level rise because it means higher storm surges and it means flooding and changes in groundwater right now. So it is a big deal, and the most important point is that it wasn't there 20 or 30 years ago, and we know that the forecasts are showing that we're going to see a lot more of this in the future.
And it just so happens that we've built billions and billions and trillions of dollars worth of infrastructure along those coasts.
Tremendous amount of infrastructure, and of course that requires insuring, that requires investment. All these things are in a way at risk if we continue to allow the earth to warm up and in an unbridled way and change the coastline basically.
All the climate models have really predicted what we are seeing now, these increased storms, increased droughts, increased heat waves. We are seeing this over the past year and a half, so many of these different signals. Do you think that we're getting to the point where this is building a genuine consensus that action is required?
Yeah, I think there's nothing like reality to convince people. You can talk all you want about models and about future forecasts that things are going to happen a long distance away. Having things happen vividly on TV shows, the news, in the newspapers, all of that helps bring people to the point that things are really changing, and although we thought we might be able to wait a while, in fact, we're probably on the cusp of seeing real changes that would bring these things home to roost, basically, in terms of weather changes. As I've said, coastline changes, changes in the amount of drought or heavy rains, all of those things have a major and costly impact. And so people, I think, will begin to decide that long-term commitment to action is what's needed.
As I'm sure you've been hearing, the concern over climate change and the urgency for action has started to bleed even into the presidential race. And there has been talk about we need to act by 10 years, 12 years. For people who might not understand what people mean when they say we have to act in a decade or 12 years or 15 years, help put that into perspective. What does that really mean?
Well, it really means that we need to start changing how we produce energy, and I think trying to get there to a carbon neutral within the space of a decade probably a bit too much to ask. But the tools are all there for us. The technology is there in terms of solar panels and wind farms, in terms of conservation, electric cars. We can explore things like biofuels. We need to consider nuclear, perhaps, in terms of a power source. It's all in the mix. We know how to do it. And what's more is people are going to make money bringing us this future of energy generation. It's actually, I think, going to be quite easy as soon as we say, as a nation, collectively, individually, city by city, state by state, that we're going to commit to doing these things. And I'm really pleased to see how many states and cities have set a goal for themselves in the future. I'm actually really confident that, in fact, the U.S. is going to lead the way on all of this because we have such a strong entrepreneurial spirit about solving problems once we're convinced they're a problem. And that's what I think the future holds for us.
All right, Ted Scambos, University of Colorado at Boulder, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So guys, we have to commit to the war on carbon. That's what this is going to be. It's going to be a war, but we're all going to win because we're going to develop energy cheaper, cleaner, better. And guys, you know, you say, well, Richard, a silly little millimeter. That's a big deal. What's the big deal? One silly little millimeter. Well, guys, what's the big deal with 1 degree difference? If the globe is 1 degree warmer, doesn't that make a difference? Let's find out with clip 31. Kurt, hit it.
After the hottest June and July in climate history, the effects are now being felt here. Greenland's ice sheet is the biggest in the northern hemisphere, and it's in meltdown.
Here comes the calving. Remember that term, calving.
When large chunks fall off vast glaciers, they call it
glaciers. Glaciers.
The placid water surrounding it is dramatically disrupted, causing
Glaciers.
large waves. All of this is a warning sign for the world.
With the climate changing so fast, it's just increasing this change day by day. You know, I can see it in this just 5 years' time, how much has been increasing the melting every year, more and more.
No one has noticed the speed of change here more than Niccolo. He's been bringing groups to this glacier in southeastern Greenland for years.
When the scientists talk about 1 degree warmer, then you really get the importance of how much will change. With 1 degree, here you melt ice, and with -1 Celsius, you would create ice. So this 1 degree, and now even more of changes around the globe, then you will change dramatically a big area.
So guys, just to keep everything simple, because most of us are familiar with Fahrenheit temperature, what's the difference between 33 degrees and 32 degrees? 32 degrees water freezes. At 33 it doesn't. So that 1 degree makes such a difference. But guys, what you got to keep in mind, the difference between Celsius and Fahrenheit is 1.8 degrees. So for every degree Celsius, it's actually 1.8 degree Fahrenheit. So if you ever get on Jeopardy and that question comes up, remember your old buddy, Uncle Rich. But now we're going to play part 2, and then we're going to go on to the windmills. So Kurt, number 32, please.
This 1 degree, and now
1 degree
even
makes
more
the difference.
of changes
All
around the
it
globe,
takes.
then you will change dramatically a big area.
It might all seem distant geographically to us, but what happens in Greenland has consequences for everyone.
This is what they call the defrosting season here in Greenland, and every month billions of tons of ice are melting away. But each time just 1 ton breaks off. The sea levels rise and the entire planet is affected.
It is a colossal mission lasting 5 years. But this team from NASA is measuring exactly how much the North Atlantic is heating up.
It's fallen about 165 meters and temperature's now warming. That's the typical behavior when the probe hits the bottom.
The campaign is called OMG, Oceans Melting Greenland. And 5 News was given access on board as the scientists used these probes to collect the most accurate data about temperature.
The water that's around Greenland that's in contact with the glaciers is sort of upside down. There's a layer of cold water on top of a layer of warm water. And it's that warm water that's really threatening the glaciers. So to measure it, you have to actually take a thermometer and put it in the water.
About 10 seconds.
Putting the probes in the water requires precision.
Drop. 14's away.
It quickly reaches the ocean, like this one on an earlier flight, before data is eventually sent back to the plane.
It's not like all hope is lost. I don't wake up every morning crying. But the fact is that we have to work really hard, really quickly if we want to avoid the worst of the impacts of climate change.
Feet, if all of the ice sheet here melted. Greenland's present is determining the planet's future.
Ay, ay, ay. All right, Kurt, how much time do we have left? 4.5 minutes. All right, let's do this then. Let's go to clip 34 because that's more pertinent to the first wind farm in the United States. So Kurt, let's go to 34 and then we'll come back to me, all right?
These thousands of wind turbines and digital solutions are just an example of the investments GE is making in clean energy
investment that GE
Until now,
is
all
making.
the wind power generated in the U.S. has been from wind turbines located on land.
They're
But now
harvesting the
ocean
wind.
winds are supplying that clean energy as America's first offshore wind farm spins to life. Block Island is about 13 miles south of Rhode Island. 3 miles from its coastline, 5 massive wind turbines now rise above the Atlantic Ocean, supplying 30 megawatts of electricity to not only the island community, but also to the Rhode Island grid.
Partnerships help us accelerate progress and make a greater impact. We work closely with Deepwater Wind on the first U.S. offshore wind project, which now provides the community, state, and New England with a new clean energy solution. The success of Block Island Wind Farm really opens up the potential and possibility for offshore wind projects. There is an incredible untapped potential for offshore wind in the United States and around the world.
Built by a partnership of GE and Deepwater Wind, a developer of offshore wind projects, the Block Island Wind Farm is made up of 5 GE turbines that are twice as tall as the Statue of Liberty.
An offshore wind farm involves really big stuff. All of the components are really large. The blades are very, very long. The foundations, the steel foundations that go into the water are made of steel, 1,500 tons of steel in each one of the 5 foundations. So moving that equipment around is a real challenge.
Yeah.
And one of the advantages of offshore wind is that we don't really have size constraints. We can build turbines really as large as the technology allows us to go. The further offshore you get, the stronger and steadier the wind is. So when you're in the middle of an ocean environment, you're in the middle of a really, really strong wind resource, which allows those really big turbines to produce a lot of power.
And with a total output of 30 megawatts from this wind farm, that's enough clean energy to power every home, every business, like the National Hotel, everything on this island, with enough electricity to give back to the grid.
Clean energy is a journey around the world, and we all need to work towards it. And seeing Block Island today is just such an amazing proof point of the work we do at Eco Imagination and the impact that we can make with great partners and customers.
So it's a perfect marriage, a marriage of demand for energy on the coastline and a huge power source just off the coast.
Our work in Eco Imagination is just beginning. We're continually investing in clean technology solutions, and we want to lead the way to a clean energy future.
Investing in
this
clean
cool ocean
energy
wind sure feels nice,
technology.
but who would have guessed what an impact this could
GE.
have on our planet Earth? You could say the wind's the limit, at least when it comes to clean energy.
The wind's the limit, the sky's the limit, biogas is the limit. And guys, you know, I'm big on biogas. But, you know, the fact that all this technology is now available and Trump denies it, just so him and his buddies can continue to burn fossil fuels, destroy the planet, and make money. And when is this nonsense going to stop? When is it going to end? You would think that after a while somebody would get to them, but you can't talk to them. Kurt, how much time we got? 30 seconds. All right. We'll start rolling the credits when you know it's almost time. But guys, I want to thank everybody for tonight. I'm sorry if I got a little excited in the beginning, but you know, I tell you, I jumped through hoops to try to get this show up. And from now on, we're going to make sure that we go through the first few clips as a team. Not that we don't have time. All right, so anyway, hey, if anybody's got any ideas or anything, you can get in touch with me on Facebook. Just go to Rich Frasconi, or you can go to Who's Telling the Truth. But what I really should do is I should really get with my buddies. I have some friends in high school, and they might be able to help me get all my stuff up on Instagram and all.